All right, we're going to change the program. We're just going to let Guillermo lead us through the rest of the morning here. I think. Thank you. And thanks for that reminder sort of how arts and culture connect us all. One of my favorite artists, Etta James, Jefferson High, LA Unified alum, Central Avenue. So it's one of those things, art is that connector for us. And Guillermo sort of reminded us it's about inspired teachers in the classroom. That's what we're here today. That sense of urgency, I hope you're feeling it, because if we don't find the talent, we're putting the dusty piano back in the cupboard, right? Back in the closet. So we're missing, and the kids are missing an opportunity. It's that sense of urgency. So it's my privilege to introduce someone who shares my sense of urgency, Cecily Myart Cruz. We work closely together for many years. Me as superintendent, Cecily is the head of all the teachers in Los Angeles schools. And we really bonded over COVID. And that's kind of a funny thing, bonded over COVID. Maybe bonded during COVID. Because we shared a sense of urgency to make sure kids and their families were taken care of, to make sure all who were in schools were safe and welcome. And that extended from providing meals to everybody, the largest food relief effort in our nation's history, led by the teachers and classified staff in Los Angeles Unified, making sure every student was connected, the model set by Los Angeles Unified, making sure everyone had a COVID test and vaccine set by Los Angeles Unified. And now we're going to make sure that every student has a chance to participate in arts and music. So I invited Cecily here today. She's going to speak just briefly and introduce our panelists. But I invited Cecily because she is that elementary school teacher. Can you imagine Guillermo at a classroom right next door to Cecily? And I think you get some sense of Cecily's urgency and her passion, because at her heart, she's a third grade teacher. So it's my privilege to introduce Cecily Myart Cruz to tell us a little bit about a teacher's perspective in the classroom, what it means to have arts, and to introduce our panelists. Thank you.
Well, let's give it up one more time for Guillermo Tejeda from Wadsworth Elementary. So I know I'll be getting an invite to come to your school. Oh, okay, so we'll hook that up afterwards. As Austin said, my name is Cecily Myart Cruz, and I am the president of United Teachers Los Angeles. But today, I stand before you as an educator and a mother. I'm a mother of a 7th grader in Los Angeles Unified School District, and he is in the arts right now. And I have seen such beautiful work from him as a budding actor. Who knew? But I have to be an educator, and I have to ask this question. Raise your hand if you've ever seen students who were allowed to create art or learn drumming or create music. Raise your hand if you've ever, all right, look around. I have that experience, and it is beautiful. Guillermo just said it, it's life-changing. Our babies, when they experience the arts, are forever changed. Access to the arts for our babies is not only essential, but vital for them to thrive in our schools. The passage of Prop 28 brings hope and joy back into our classrooms, because art, music, dance, drama is a right for all of our babies. It is not an option. It is a right. And I hope that you agree with all of us on that premise. So the question becomes, how do we ensure the success of Prop 28? And Austin and Linda were having this conversation, and I hope it's not lost on you. We have to deliver on the promise of arts for our babies. We have to deliver and see thriving, joyful classrooms. That's what arts does. But while it's a huge opportunity, as stated, it's going to be a huge lift. So I'm grateful that Elmo created such a platform, and we're talking about how do we do this? Connecting artists, having existing educators maybe take on another credential to do some of this work. So how do we do it? We know that there are multiple pathways in bringing talent to our schools. It can happen through a traditional credential, teachers that have multiple subject credentials like myself and Guillermo, folks who have single subject credentials in art, music, dance, and CTE. I don't want that lost. Career technical educators are credentialed educators, and they deserve to be loved and supported and brought into our schools. Whatever pathway an educator takes in serving our babies will be unique to them. And when they do, we have to channel that passion, that joy, into properly supporting our educators of all kinds, of all places, and meet the demands that my son and all of our students deserve. Their success is our success, and this gift opens up the world of creativity, of imagination. In and through a pandemic, we must be focused on restoring healing, restoring and bringing joy into our classrooms. We have the power to do it right. We have the power to lead the nation and do it now. Our babies need everyone in here and everyone listening. This is what our mission and work is. We cannot fail. We have to dig deep. We have to commit and see it through. The mission and vision of making arts come alive for every single one of our babies. And as we transition into our panel, I want us to think about a few things. It is our job to attract talent into our schools. It is our job to properly support them and the educators like Guillermo who already exist in our schools. So let's go ahead and get to that discussion right now. It is with great pleasure that I introduce a panel of pre-K through 12 educators that will dig deep, will unpack these conversations. And so let's take it away, Miss Akida Long. Hi, thank you.
Hello, I'm Dr. Akida Kissane-Long. I am a Go Bruins UCLA alumni, yay. Retired principal from LA Unified School District. I was a Turnaround Arts principal, and now I am principal leadership coach for Turnaround Arts and have the distinguished pleasure of facilitating this panel discussion.
Good afternoon. I'm Esther Soliman, and I was the CTE and Link Learning Administrator at Los Angeles Unified School District until 2 months ago when I retired, and now I am currently working part-time at the Link Learning Alliance.
I had the pleasure of working with Esther. My name is Ruth Perez. Good morning, everyone. I am currently the Deputy Superintendent for the Riverside County Office of Education. Prior to that, I worked in LA Unified as a Deputy of Instruction and have been a Superintendent in LA County in Paramount Unified, which was a Turnaround Arts or still is a Turnaround Arts district. I worked in superintendent in Norwalk, La Mirada, and I've also worked out of state as a superintendent, and it is my sincere pleasure to be here today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeannine Flores, and I'm the Arts and STEAM Coordinator at the Los Angeles County Office of Education. And in my spare time, I'm the chair for Create California. And I'm also a former music educator. I worked 19 years in the classroom in Tustin Unified. So I'm so glad to be here with you today.
I'm glad to be here too. This is exciting. My name is Brian Belski. I'm the Director of Arts Education for the Anaheim Union High School District. And I was a high school band director for 20 years and excited to take on a new role over the last few years at the district. And we're continuing to expand our arts education programs in Anaheim Union. We're becoming a little bit of a growing concern, so that's a good thing. And I was a tuba player with Jeannine at Long Beach State years ago,
Go
and I'm a
Beach.
former Bruin, so excited to be back here at UCLA.
So excited to be able to hear about the vast experiences that we bring to the table to facilitate this wonderful initiative. And with it comes a lot of hard work. We'd like to get started by posing this question: how do we ensure every day, every student has access to art? Because really now we have an opportunity to deliver on that promise. So how can we leverage our current system to meet the needs of and the stipulations that are created through Proposition 28? Jeannine, I really want to direct this question to you. Could you highlight the work that's been happening at the county level, LA County level, and with specific focus on the CTEs, and even some information about the TEAL program?
Gladly. So a couple of things have been happening around for Prop 28. In the spring in February and April, we had 2 boot camps on Prop 28. Several of you were there to get the district starting the conversation around Prop 28 and coming up with a plan. And currently, right now, we're doing an arts education funding community day of practice that's running all the way through the year. So regardless of what district you're in, if you'd like to attend that, we'd love to have you. There's a session happening right now that my colleagues are going to run, but we have our next meeting in January. So in addition to that, the CTE credentialing, we have a whole department here at the Los Angeles County Office of Education that helps credential teachers with their CTE credential, as well as the regular credential and administrative credentials. So we are here to support the districts in whatever capacity. So with the strategic planning that's needed to come up with a plan to implement, I think we need to have a plan in order to ensure all the students are having access to the arts, as well as that credentialing piece from the county office. And there was a second part, Dr. Long.
Well, first I want to talk a little bit about the plan, the strategic planning, and how important it is to develop a strategic plan for the arts. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes. Well, here in LA County, we're very lucky. We have collective impact. The Department of Arts and Culture here in the county provides free strategic arts planning for all of our districts. That is huge. That doesn't happen in the other counties. When I worked in Northern California, I wrote the strategic plans for the districts and the counties, and this is a huge, huge awesomeness for LA County. And having that plan and having an arts coordinator in the district seems to be that leverage point of success in our districts in implementing arts programs with fidelity. And so if you're in LA County, reach out to me. Denise Grande is in the house. We can help you with the strategic planning. They need to be refreshed and updated in light of Prop 28, right? Because in the past, we've been in a deficit mindset. Now we have the money, right? So the work's going to shift a little bit. So I invite you to have a committee with many voices coming to the table. So I would like to see students contributing to this, as well as the teachers, special education department, curriculum and instruction, your community arts partners that might be providing the arts programming after school.
Esther, you have some things you want to share on that topic?
Sure, I'd like to just continue on the path about career technical education teachers. As the founder and first principal of the Los Angeles School of the Arts over at the RFK campus, we have about 480 students there, and we have 4 full-time arts teachers. 3 of them are CTE teachers. And these are working artists who work in the evenings, directing plays, acting in plays, and then we have 1 single subject teacher as well. And I think that's how we're going to get to the numbers that we're talking about, beyond the 13 up to the 15,000, is by really embracing the artists who are out there. Come in and teach 2 periods, come in and teach 3 periods. I mean, it's a wonderful combination, the arts, and it's transformative for the kids. I mean, I watch our kids come in and they're hunched over and they're shy, and the end of 4 years, they're just so expressive and they found their own voice. So CT, I think, is really, really the way that we're going to add on a lot more teachers.
And if I may, you have so much talent on our faculties. We don't do enough to harvest the talent that exists on our faculties and in our parent community and our extended community outside of the gates of our schools. We have a lot of talent right around us, and we need to harvest that. Thank you so much. Dr. Perez, I'd like to ask you, how as a county superintendent might we see the commitment to every child every day with the arts?
Thank you, Dr. Long. You know, ditto to the supports that county offices and large districts such as LA Unified provide in support of the arts. One of the things that you know, is so unique about Prop 28 that is very exciting about as a superintendent is that it is ongoing funding. As Austin said, it's $1 billion ongoing every year. So that creates an opportunity for us to create the space as we work with our superintendents in Riverside County to have discussions about creating a vision for the art. And I say that because since the money has to be supplemental and not supplanting, it's an opportunity to expand what is already there with regard to the arts. However, it's sad, but it is true. We have been so focused on reading and writing and math and the core subjects that are incredible, and we've been under so much and are under so much pressure to increase scores that I truly wonder, and I have asked some superintendents, do you really believe enough to have the courage to believe and implement the fact that the art can enhance learning in your schools, in your districts? Because that courage is something that is needed in order to expand the arts right now during this incredible opportunity that we have in the state of California. We're so pressured for time during the day, and we want to dedicate that time to interventions, to all of the things that are important for teaching and learning. But at the same time, we have to be able to allow ourselves to believe in the research and to believe that if we create the space for our students to have supplemental programs and continue to grow a true vision for the arts that meets the needs of our students at every level, elementary, middle, and high school, it will help to increase student learning. That I see as in our service and in our support of district superintendents to help them have that space to start having those conversations again. Because I truly believe that, you know, where there's a will, there's a way. If you truly believe in this, even though we bless and embrace the $1 billion every year that will come our way, we make it happen through partnerships, through other ways, other means, such as Turnaround Arts, to have the arts in our schools.
I couldn't agree with you more, Dr. Perez, and I applaud you for having been a strong supporter of the arts and believing that it is a content area that stands next to reading, writing, social studies, science. It's the cognitive demand that exists in the standards is on par with all of the other content areas, and we need to be more vocal about how beneficial, the creativity and the depth of knowledge, and where it is on Bloom's taxonomy that kids benefit as a result. Brian, we'd like to hear how your district has used this influx of funding and support to enhance your arts programming in Anaheim.
Well, it's been, it's sometimes a challenge, right, to convince the board and the cabinet that, like, well, that money is not there yet. Well, but it's there. It's in the Constitution of the state of California that money is coming in fiscal 23-24. And getting everybody to sort of understand that was really important. We were able to get our board and our cabinet to essentially give us a loan, right? They give us an advance on we're doing everything. We're using LCFF money, we're using Title I money, we're using Title IV money. By the time we get to the end of fiscal 23-24, all of the things that we're spending are going to get magically recoded to that Prop 28 resource code that the state has given us, because it is important that we call it what it is when we get to the end of the year. But we've already created, I was a curriculum specialist prior to this. The district created a director position in the ed division for arts education. The salary differential between that position and the position I'm in, that's Prop 28. They hired 2 curriculum specialists. Performing arts curriculum specialist, a visual art curriculum specialist. That is, and they are assigned essentially to every campus in the district, and they're able to share that funding to be able to do that. But that's done with money that quote unquote doesn't exist yet. But yes, it does. It's there. We're creating the positions because the money is there, and we just, it's a timeline thing. But there are some other things that really. For us systemically, it's really important for us to look at, we're a secondary district. We're 7 through 12 across 5 cities, about 27,000 kids. And I have the good fortune to be in a district that when things were tight in 2007, 2008, 2009, the board said, you will not cut arts education. You will not fire arts teachers. So we are pretty well built out in terms of credentialed art. We have instrumental and vocal music at nearly every campus, theater and dance across the board, but not, we have some gaps in theater, we have some gaps in dance. We have visual art at every single campus. For us, it's going to be a little bit more in terms of how can we support options 2 and 3? How can we support option 2 of bringing teaching artists? We had a great conversation with Jamcard talking about School Gig and how that can help leverage their incursion into the music industry, so to speak, to be able to impact arts education for our students. Our build out is gonna really be focused a lot on teaching artists. Whether it's a trombone section coach that's shared between 4 campuses, that's been on the backs of parent booster groups for the last however long, whether they can or they can't fund it. That's not something that they should have to worry about. They should be able to send their student to school and be able to know that they're going to have differentiated instruction for every single instrument. As an instrumental music teacher, that was my job, but I had a team, and relying on that is how we're going to get to every student and every day, every kid. And then there's some master schedule things too we have to be concerned with, because we have all the money to start all of these classes, and if we're not being mindful of the fact that within the master schedule we have built-in things that make it hard for students to be in the arts, those are the things that we're starting to take a look at in the district. And how can we remove the systemic barriers that have kept kids out of arts education? They want to be in that art, they want to be in that choir class, but then we still have site administrators that aren't putting their most popular performing arts class first period, and then they want to talk about why they have tardy problems.
You talk about systemic problems that hold arts instruction from being the most prioritized thing that happens in a schedule or in the course of a day. And I think that fearless leadership and the willingness to step back from the current system to say, what's not working for us anymore? Even within a turnaround art school where people actually sign up to be an arts teaching institution, a school, we have our data showing us that in our testing grades, our teachers are not doing as rigorous arts program as they are in the TK. How do we, Dr. Perez, I'm going to direct this question to you, how do we reshape that leadership so that we can release ourselves to do this very highly motivating and neurologically important, developmentally important, all of those things, whole child important, SEL important work that comes at us through the arts?
I totally agree. Our teachers hold the key. In addition to our leadership having the courage to believe in the research, to create the vision of expanding the arts now in their schools and their districts, providing our teachers with the training, the knowledge, the support, the experience in integrating the arts into math, into science, into other areas. It is possible. Many of us have seen it done. We just have to provide that space and that opportunity for our teachers so that we can reach all students, because the unfortunate thing about the arts in public education is that it's always limiting. It's always, specific or a certain number of students that have that exposure because the schedule is so impacted. But there are ways to do that if we focus on the integration, supporting our teachers, starting with those who are most interested in that expansion of learning, of bringing in the arts into the lessons every day, and expanding from that, making that a part of the vision, and then looking at the master schedule. As I said before, where there's a will, there's a way. I mean, today you can have 0 periods and 7 periods at the high school level, to reduce the class sizes and band because facilities is still an issue, to create more opportunities. Those children will come 0 period and 7th period for dance classes, for band classes, for music classes, and it goes on because the hunger and the desire is there in the hearts of our children. All we have to do is create the opportunity and the space. These dollars provide opportunities for us to provide for teachers to have, the additional salary support to teach those extra periods. And because they love what they're doing, they will provide those opportunities during after-school programs, during 0 period, during 7th period, whatever it is. And this school gig opportunity also addresses a structural need that we have, and it's the resources. My heart started pounding fast when I heard about school gig, because I had not heard about that before. But oh my goodness, that connection, there are so many artists in the communities that we can tap into and bring in to support our kids. Some of them are parents and siblings of our own students who have these gigs, outside of their own jobs, that if they knew they had the opportunity to come in and provide this for our students, that is the creative way that we can make this happen. And where there's a will, there's a way. And now that the funding is there, all we need is that vision. All we need is to provide the space, provide the support, and hear from our students as well, the student voices. They will tell you what they are willing to receive, and they will tell you what they are interested in.
I'd like to just expand on that idea of expanding the arts. I've heard a lot of talk about art and music and to some degree performing arts, but in the CTE world we also have students who are studying to be architects, and we have fashion designers and costume designers and scenic designers and film artists and video artists, and I think if we extend that whole concept of what is art, we will also get to that point of 15,000 teachers.
And you raised a very good point, Esther. The integration of arts throughout the curriculum, and we had some discussion about the weighting of courses in the A through G requirements, and how do we get the kids to be able to want or be eligible to be UC ready if they're taking courses that are in that A through G pathways. Would you want to expand on that, or Jeannine at all, or Brian?
Oh, I'll jump in.
Okay, yeah.
A through G, you know, and you mentioned specifically calling out the UC. Well, the UC has comprehensive review, right? And when the application process of a student is applying to a UC school, it's not necessary. I mean, yes, they have to meet the A through G requirements, but at the same time, their transcript and their application is looked at holistically. There is a tremendous amount of importance that the UC system places on involvement in arts education, and what particularly multi-year systemic, programs, sequential rather is the word I was looking for. There's a lot of emphasis already placed on that, but I think to sort of hit to another point, I mean, we're talking about costuming, we're talking about lighting, we're talking about sound, we're talking about makeup, we're talking about, we're talking about architecture, we're talking about all these things. I think the easiest thing for us to do, obviously, is to support the traditional, right? We have to support the traditional programs in terms of we're talking about theater, we're talking about dance, we're talking about music. That doesn't necessarily mean we're supporting the conservatory model of arts or of music education, but it does mean that we're going to support music education. And I think that for us, as we're beginning to implement Prop 28, that we're looking for those opportunities to support to support their traditional, but as we get further and further along, shame on us if we're not looking at creating the transformational, right? Not just supporting the traditional, but what are the things that, I mean, like you said, the students are going to tell you what they want. Right. The students are going to, they know a lot more than we do, right, about what it is that they want, and particularly in the arts. And if we're not listening to them and we're not providing opportunities for student voice to have an impact that's driving the master schedule, then I think we're really missing it.
Thank you. So true. We want to talk a little bit about, we have 3 pathways that we're considering, and Allison gave us the charge to tee up for higher ed, so we're going to do that part. I'm thinking about arts integration and the TEAL program and how we can maybe scale that to K-12 as opposed to K-6. What would that look like? And maybe 3 years out, what could it be to have a greater impact in terms of integrating art throughout our curriculum?
So at the Los Angeles County Office of Education, we have a program called TEAL, Technology Enhanced Arts Learning, which is an arts integration professional development that's free, 24/7 online, and it's geared towards K through 6, but we're expanding it to K through 12 because we found power in integrating the arts for our English language learners, for our social emotional learning. And what does arts integration look like in light of Prop 28? How can we support our multiple subject teachers that have a credential to teach all subjects from K through grade 8 to bring the arts there? They're not experts in the arts. I'm not saying that they are, but we can give them the skills to teach a dance. We can give them the skills to integrate a theater with their science lesson. We can give them the skills to teach music and math. And that, along with a supplemental credential to be a specialist, because we have some teachers here that are teaching 4th grade that are awesome musicians, but they don't have that music credential. Can we make it easy, right, to get the supplemental and not go through 3 years of college to do something that he already has a passion and a capacity to do? So that is my challenge to the CTC and our county offices that do credentialing. How can we get that supplemental process going a little quicker? I know the higher education conversation that will happen after this is going to address some of those as well. But I think arts integration is one step for our rural schools, remote schools, our LEAs with less than 500 that don't have as many resources available to them. And we want to empower their community to provide that arts education. So what does that look like? Is that part of the waiver process, perhaps? So let's think about arts integration, and there are programs out there that can support this, and it's so powerful to see the connections and the language development and them coming out of their shell because they've had practice with the language through music, through dance, through theater, through media arts, and making films and animation.
Esther, you want to add to that?
No, I just want to concur with her on that.
Ditto.
I think that it's a golden opportunity for us to do some wonderful things in the area of arts and expand our programming, and also tap into the staff that we already have on deck. We have an opportunity to train who we already have in our midst, to harvest them for their talents and to expand them with certification and art specialists, not even a credential, but a certificate so that they can teach those things.
Yeah, start with your assets, right? And take a survey of your school. That's your baseline. What do you already have in place? What teachers already have that experience, and build upon that rather than seeking 15,000 teachers in arts in the state.
Or until you get those teachers, bring in professional experts. You know, they can't be in the
Yes.
classroom alone with the students, but they can certainly be in there and offer their arts to the students, and they can partner with the teacher who then also is learning how to integrate the arts. So it's a win-win in that situation.
Yeah, that's actually something we did exactly that. We created 4 different levels of VAPA professional expert positions within the classified HR side of the house, and we're really looking forward to being able to leverage, because we do already have these relationships. We have these in the community. We have muralists, and we have folks who are going to be really great with teaching blending pastels. We have folks who, and they could teach that lesson. They could teach 2 weeks at 8 campuses, and we can spread that out. We can spread the love, and they can share that load across the district. And it's just the same as it's going to work with a choreographer or a accompanist or even a trombone coach.
So what would be our ask from us in the field in K-12? What would be our ask of higher ed? And so that we can transition to that conversation.
I'm going to jump in again. Sorry. I think focusing on the fact that there are multiple pathways for an artist to be able to share their art with the world, and that may be through sharing art through the next generation as an educator. And that means that I think there are some practices, I think, that focus on that traditional. They focus on that. Like, I'm thinking about a performance degree as a musician, and you're focused on becoming a performer. You're learning all kinds of stuff. You might find yourself in a K-12 situation where you are a teaching artist, and you are able to share some art and get the next generation to share to work on their art. And I think that higher ed can embed intentional pedagogy into the performance degree, so that those performers can teach. They can teach elementary. They can teach junior high school. They can teach high school because they have some understanding of sequencing. And if they're going as a professional musician, they may not be thinking about how to teach that 4th grader in your class about how to play whatever it is they're trying to play. So making sure that that pedagogy is embedded at all steps along the way, because that's what we're going to have to do to get to 15,000.
For me, I would say let's disrupt the system.
Amen.
It's broken.
Amen.
Can we make it easier to get teachers in the classroom? Can we stay focused on what's best for our students? What is best for our students? And what do they need? And what's going to equip them for their future career, which we have no idea what it's going to look like. They're going to have so many different careers. The arts are so wonderful with creative thinking, collaboration, communication. These are skills that we need. And the system needs a total rewrite, right? So step back and reflect. Is my system at the higher education, the district, my school site working? What can I do to change it, right? So
Yes.
that's my challenge.
Here.
Yes, and a lot of artists don't want to do the logistics, the paperwork. Who does? But that gets in the way. So how do we disrupt the system and make that part of it easier so we can get them into the classrooms? They want to be there with the students. It's a matter of how do we get them there and expedite that process and make it easier, because the paperwork is a killer in many cases, both at the higher ed level and at the secondary level.
And from a leadership perspective, I think in our leadership programs, our leadership academies, with Prop 28 being something that we can depend upon, we need to have these discussions again about the importance of the arts to teaching and learning. If we keep working in silos, and what I mean by silos is focusing only on core, what leaders are, leadership is about influence. So we need to have a vision for that, believe in it again, create that space for our leaders to have those conversations, continuously looking at the research of what this provides for students, and being able to filter that from the top all the way down as well, so it goes both ways, so we can start having those conversations again about the importance of arts in education.
I just want to tell you how impressed, excited I am to see this work going forward in the field under the leadership of educators such as yourself. I almost wanted to become a principal again. I said almost. To see this unfold in schools, but we'll all be around to help support the work that you're doing in the field. Thank you so much, Allison, for asking us to be part of this wonderful experience.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. I'm Merryl Goldberg. I am a music professor down at California State University, San Marcos. Professional saxophonist, 13 years on the road. And Fabian, I was the kid through K-12 who was on first name basis with the principals, and in 10th grade in geometry class where I was bored out of my brain. Teacher asked me what I was doing. I'm writing a music. Miss Goldberg, you can't be writing music in this class. Same story, right? Except in Boston, not in LA. And I continued to write my music, and Miss Goldberg, what are you doing? I'm writing a symphony. You can write the symphony in detention, out to the principal's office. Well, what she didn't know is I was going to go on. I didn't write a symphony, but I went on to the amazing career in music and on the road and playing saxophone. And I've been asked by Allison before we start the higher ed panel, which I'm also on, to do a little exercise, just a little break, something in sound. So I'm going to do something that will transform our room right now, just like we're transforming education here in California. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand up. Yay, we're standing up. And we're going to create a rainstorm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out to the stage here. I'm going to make some motions that include sound, and I'm going to point to the room. I'll start on my left, your right, and you're going to do what I'm doing until I have you stop doing it. Does that make sense? Okay. So here we go. So if you all just we'll just stay quiet during this, so don't talk. And again, you're going to start doing what I have you do until I have you do something different.